Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you. And hopefully you find this really fruitful. So this is a Microsoft Teams version, which does mean that you can stop it at any stage and ask questions. So please feel free to jump in there and give us your questions. And yeah, really excited. So I think the way that we're going to run today is that we're going to ask Linda from Twinkle to present first, and she'll be doing all about offline coding and robotics. And then Carrie Johnston, who's actually teaching at the moment, has done a recorded video for us, which is awesome. I watched it yesterday. It's a really phenomenal way to encourage you with your students. So she actually works at a school for learners who have autism, and so they need to actually fit into routine. Autistic learners really struggle when they go out of routine, so they always start school on a Monday, regardless of how the school holidays are actually shaped, which is really interesting. So if you find learners like that, you might have a borderline autistic learner with you. So Carrie's going to talk all about play, and then of course I'm going to end off the session with you on magnetic tiles and playing with them in your classroom. I've got a long list here of fun stuff to do. I'm really excited to share it with you. So Linda has been a teacher for many, many years, and she writes all of the Twinkle content for coding and robotics. And there's such an amazing link between maths and coding, which is obviously why I like coding. So Linda, thank you so much for doing this for us today. We really do appreciate it. And guys, enjoy. Over to you, Linda.
In South Korea for 2 years, and I'm a mom of 2 children, a 5-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy. These are the contents that we are going to be discussing this morning, starting off with the most important definitions of play, why play is important, categories of play, and then how this is functional. How can we help our children play and using play in the classroom? So let's start with what is play. I'm sure many of you can come up with many different definitions of play, and even the internet and various resources also have many different variations of explanations for the word play, but I'll just share some of the ones I found. So play is the way a child learns what no one else can teach him. And I think this speaks to why play is important, which we'll get into a bit later. But it is also the way he explores and orients himself to the actual world of space and time, things, animals, structure, and people. So basically everything around him. Through play, the child explores and experiments in order to learn in their own individualized way. I think this is a great quote that summarizes what play is and also the importance of it. So play is how children learn about themselves and then also learn about the world around them. So all children play in various shapes and forms. Play is intrinsic, meaning that it comes from within. It's not someone else putting it on them. It's process focused, so it doesn't really matter how the product looks at the end. It's more about what happens to get to that product, and it's within your own control rather than an adult controlling what you're doing. It comes straight from your control. There is no right or wrong way to play, but there are definitely ways in which we can facilitate play to meet different outcomes, which we will talk a bit about later. So why is play important? Play matters. Play is the highest form of research, and that comes directly from Albert Einstein. Children learn as they play, and most importantly, in play, children learn how to learn. And that's why play is so important, is because it actually forms quite a big part of the learning process for children. So playing with toys was once considered a frivolous pursuit with little worth back in the day, but advances made in brain imaging over the past 30 years has provided solid scientific proof that play is essential for healthy brain development in babies and children. As children grow, opportunities for learning through play vastly diminish. We know this if we look at children across varying ages, how it starts as a baby interacting with his world, And then when they're in their preschool years, play is a huge part of their lives. But then as more structured learning happens, play diminishes. Toy and games feature in early years, but are absent in middle school. And the misconception that unstructured play isn't as important as formal or proper learning prevails. So as an occupational therapist, we like to look at areas of occupation. And this is for all people of all ages. We all have areas of occupation, but I'm going to focus on children or pediatrics for the purpose of this presentation. So for a child's work, they are at school and they are learning academics, they are learning all the skills, all the cognitive skills that they need for life. Then we have self-care, which is learning to feed yourself and dress yourself and wash yourself and how to maybe contribute to a household depending on the age, but it's survival skills. Then we have leisure, under which play forms, because it's fun. It's when we have time off, what do we do? Sports can fall into this, music, reading, computer games. However, children tend to unwind, how they would spend their free time. And then the last occupation would be rest and sleep. And so play actually falls into, or can fall into, the majority of our occupations. We can use play in work. And many times I've heard play being described as the work occupation of a child. We can use play in self-care to make it fun, for them to be able to learn, fun and motivating. And then play definitely is their form of leisure. And rest would be the only one that doesn't incorporate play, or hopefully not, giving them a chance to recover so they can play the next day. So some of the benefits of play. Play brings joy and pleasure. It is very motivating. It gives satisfaction. It's meaningful, and it gives children a sense of freedom in a world which is majority adults-led. Adults tend to prescribe a child's day, what they should do, what they should eat, where they should go. Whereas in play, they have control. Again, it's that internal control, and they have the freedom to make whatever world they are playing in go according to their own plans. And then play improves the cognitive, physical, social, and emotional well-being of a child. And we're going to look more into that now. So play helps to develop the skills that are needed for studying, for work one day, and also for relationships. So in play, they build confidence because they are in control and they get to dictate how they are playing and what they are doing. It develops a sense of confidence and self-esteem, a sense of I can do this, or I am capable of this, a sense of resilience, learning through their play, learning from mistakes made in their play, learning to problem solve through that, curiosity, very much so in play, seeing how things work, what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that. It's that exploring of their environments and themselves. And then coping skills, again, also to do with problem solving, to do with being able to cope in different environments, independence, which we've spoken about, social skills. So from about the age of 3, when they start developing the need for social play, how to navigate sharing and turn taking and including someone else in their game and interaction as well. And these are all very important skills that need to develop in order to be able to function in society one day as an adolescent or as an adult. Because if we look at all these skills, these are all skills we need to be able to hold down a job in a household one day. And so play forms the basis of this. It's the building blocks. Another interesting fact that has been circulating around the internet is that scientists have determined that it takes approximately 400 repetitions to create a synapse in the brain, unless it is done with play, in which case it takes only between 10 to 20 repetitions. And this is interesting. So if you think about learning a fact, you would have to repeat it to yourself 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4, until it becomes internal. But actually, if they learn that through play, it helps the brain to form those pathways and forge those pathways so that it is the information is retained a lot faster. So if we look at the different categories of play, we've got physical play, which is activities such as running, skipping, jumping, climbing, ball skills, riding a bike. So thinking about using your body. And these develop gross motor skills, which are important for physical fitness, agility, balance, coordination, and stamina. And this starts very early on, where babies are learning about their bodies in relation to the environment. And gross motor skills are very important in order to develop the muscles and the postural tone and the strength, so that then fine motor skills can develop from there. And what are fine motor skills? So these are the ability to make fine small movements using the small muscles in our hands and wrists. So bilateral coordination is a very important skill that all children and people need, and that's being able to use 2 hands together, such as a knife and a fork, tying a shoelace, doing up a zip, opening and closing containers, etc. And then grasps and pinches, being able to pick up small things, being able to hold a pencil correctly, which then leads to your pre-writing and writing skills, drawing, tracing, coloring, and then dexterity and manipulation, being able to move things within your hand if you pick up your pencil, to get your pencil orientated right, to be able to write or color or draw. Then play is also important in social skills. So this is for listening, paying attention, and sharing. So just like I said earlier, in the very early years of learning to share with friends, learning to tolerate someone else, sharing and playing in your play environment. And within this, they can explore feelings, they can express themselves, they learn to develop self-discipline and just navigate the emotional aspects of life. So if we're playing a game and someone takes the toy that I want, how do I respond to that? How do I learn to respond to that? Or if we're playing a game I don't like, how do I voice that I would like to play something else? And these are all skills that need to be developed so that one day when we are adults, we can also voice the fact that, no, this is not something we want to do, or yes, you can borrow something of mine, etc. So here are the categories of play. Children's play activities change over time and reflect their development. So if we look at a baby compared to a teenager, their play will look very different. So in infancy, we start with sensory, motor, and exploratory play, which, as I mentioned, is the baby learning about his own body and then his own body in relation to his environment. So they're starting to develop mastery over their bodies, rolling over, moving towards a toy that they want, or dropping things on the floor, cause and effect. So that's the effects of their actions upon the environment. Exploring surroundings. As soon as a baby starts crawling, they're off. They're exploring. They want to see what it is around them. They want to see, can they fit under something? Can they climb over something? And we use this category of play when we learn new motor skills as well. Then we have constructive play, which starts around preschool, and this is more, it has more identifiable outcomes such as building blocks, Lego, developing things. This goes on top of that. And then in adolescence, it becomes more abstract rather than a more concrete game. Then we have symbolic or fantasy play, and this is pretend play. It tends to be dramatic. Children love to play mommy, daddy, or teacher, and we see a lot of social coming through in these play games. Later on, it becomes more mental games, daydreaming, thinking up scenarios, thinking up like role play, thinking up what worlds they want to create, secret codes, and TVs, movies, computer games also help with this, but they tend to provide the more symbolic fantasy play for you. But it is still a form of fantasy play. And then social starts as early as mom and baby, responding, smiling back, imitating mom, and then develops more into peers, making friends, rough and tumble play. And then when children are older, learning games with rules and socializing, hanging out, developing a friendship. So now that you know what play is, how play is important for fine motor skills, gross motor skills, social skills, and we know the different categories of play, that's all very well, but how can we help them play? So the we here is us as a parent or us as a teacher. How can we facilitate play? If they're struggling, how can we encourage them to play? So kids don't always know how to play. And I will talk a bit about this later, but sometimes they'll come to you and they'll say, Mom, I'm bored. Well, let me tell you, boredom is great. Boredom is really great because it forces them to come up with a plan. It forces them to use their creative skills. It forces them to develop all those skills that we spoke about. But sometimes they do need a little bit of a nudge. And when do kids stop playing with toys? So the answer is never. If you know any adults that love to play with Lego or build puzzles or play soccer games or throw frisbee on the beach, you will know that we never stop playing with toys. The drive to play is inherent and it should be nurtured in children, despite of their age. We should always try and encourage fun and playfulness. Instead of viewing toys and play as something children should grow out of, parents and educators should understand that educational toys can enrich children's learning and growth at all times. So even though there is a place for free play, definitely, we can also use play as a medium. And in order to do this, we can use some educational toys. And the reason that toys work so well is because it doesn't force a child to go down a predetermined route, especially if we looked at constructive play toys. It's more open-ended, blocks, Lego. I mean, unless they're following a Lego pattern or whatever those booklets are called. But they open-ended play helps them to have that internal control. It provides more ways for them to discover new skills and new concepts for themselves. So again, it's exploring their environments. It's exploring what can I do. It's developing that self-confidence. It gives older children opportunity to learn through play and encourages creative thinking and problem solving, those important skills that we need. It provides a safe space to learn about their emotions and what interests them and how to adapt situations in real life. So the toys provide that very basic social skill development. And it's in a safe space for them to learn. And then the opportunity to practice how to interact with others and behave in various social situations. So as educators, even as parents, we can educate and excite. So if you remember one thing from today, let's try remember the slogan, educate and excite. So we can use toys in order to educate and excite. And STEM toys are science, technology, engineering, math-based toys, which are geared towards curiosity, learning, and also education. So it reinforces learning in a fun way. It encourages active, interactive, and engaging play that leads children to think and discover more about the world and themselves. At a time where video games and passive entertainment from screens is so prevalent, it is more crucial than ever that children are given the opportunity to engage in this type of active play and develop skills that will benefit them for the rest of their lives. So let's talk a little bit about technology. If we think about 50 years ago, what an 8-year-old child would be doing in their playtime versus what an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old child is doing these days, it looks very different. Maybe 50 years ago, they would be running around outside in the garden, they would be playing, they would be interacting with their environment, they would be bored and having to make creative plans. These days, maybe not everyone, but there is a tendency to have the TV on, to be playing computer games, to be on the tablet, any various screen leisure activities. And that's all very well, but we need to think carefully about what technology is replacing. So what would they otherwise be doing? As a parent, I know that there are moments when it is definitely much easier to shove a screen in front of them. It will give me peace and quiet. It will give them peace and quiet, and everyone just seems happier. But there have been days when I'm tempted, but then I think, no, let me not give them screen because they've had quite a lot of screen time lately. Let me see what happens if I just give them the opportunity to play. And those times are when I see the most beautiful play coming out of them. Social play together as siblings, learning to play together, to turn take, to share, to solve conflicts, and also using their imaginations. They come up with the most amazing things. And I feel that if they were on a screen, they would have missed out on all of those skill developments. So just think carefully. Screens definitely have a place, but also just think, what is a screen replacing? What are the skills that they are missing out on? And this goes back to the types and benefits of play. And we started very early on, we started with gross motor, which is your foundation. If you are sitting looking at a screen, you are not moving. And so you are missing out fundamentally on especially the gross motor aspects of play, which we know are so important to be able to develop our bodies so that we can sit at a desk or so that we can participate in sports. So just think carefully about what are you missing out on if they are on the screen. And then also just to think carefully about what are they learning through a screen that would be better than in a real life experience. Screen learning is very passive. I sit and I watch. Real life learning, very active, very internal control. They get to do it themselves. And remember, if they are doing it themselves in a playful way, they will learn it so much faster. So just as an interest, there is, out of interest for parents and teachers, there is a huge community at the moment called Screen Free Childhood. And they are advocating for screens to not be in schools until, I think, 12 years and up, and then also to stop social media only introduce it in high school years. And they have this initiative called Press, Pause, Go, Play. And I think it's a great thing to keep in mind that sometimes we don't realize how much screen time our kids have had. And sometimes it's nice to have a reminder to just press pause, go play, and get the benefits of play. So if you're interested in that, it's definitely something worth looking up. There are WhatsApp groups that share many relevant articles, and they also talk about the international scene and what they're doing internationally to reduce screen time at a young age, and all the scientific evidence behind the effects of screen time on the developing brain and all of that. Yeah, so that's another whole talk, but just in terms of play, just think about what is the screen time replacing? What are they missing out on? So some STEM toy examples or educational toy examples, as you can see here, we said Lego or Duplo, very open-ended play. They have to come up with what they're going to build. They have to be creative. They develop confidence because they build something. They see the direct efforts of their own, the direct results of their own efforts, which builds their self-esteem and confidence. Any toys that don't have a set pattern, like these blocks or the tubes, are really nice. Puzzles are great as well. There's so many visual perceptual skills that are developed through puzzles, which we need in order to be able to learn academically. Chemistry sets are always fun, especially for primary school ages. But even if you don't have a chemistry set, just Googling what happens when you put bicarb and vinegar together, that's very fun for them. Robotic toys, obviously, as they get older. Number games, like in the bottom left, my daughter has this game actually, and she loves it. And it's very nice to learn your very basic skills of object counting and then addition, subtraction, and it just makes it fun. So these are, so if you Google STEM toys, you will see lots of examples. Very nice if you have a budget for it. But there are also other ways we can play, which I'll talk about later. So this is just reiterating the development of play skills, especially the STEM toys. So this is in relation to STEM toys because it develops that cognitive part of the brain, which is your forebrain. And that's all your problem solving, memory, creative thinking, which are developing through these games, having to build and remember things and be creative. And these are very important for later academic learning and then one day holding down a job. Like I said, it develops confidence and self-esteem. It helps you to adapt. If something doesn't work, how can I make it work and persist, even though, oh, my tower fell down. Okay, let me see, how can I make it again so that it doesn't fall down? And then that develops resilience through your mistakes and your failures. It also develops social skills, like we've spoken about a lot, teamwork. Can you build? Can we build together? Conflict resolution. Ah, you knocked over my tower, or, now it's my turn, and then communication. And then motor skills and dexterity. So hand-eye coordination, very important. And again, bilateral coordination, using two hands together, left hand, right hand, pushing the blocks together, pulling them apart. Spatial awareness. Can this one go on top of this one? Is this one too big to fit in that one? Etc. Okay, so now probably the most functional part of the talk is using play in the classroom. So I do get that maybe we don't have huge budgets, we can't get these STEM toys, or we get them, but then the kids get tired of them. There are many other things we can use. So just to keep in mind, as the interests of the child become more complex as they grow older, age-appropriate toys and play opportunities should as well. It's crucial to make education, learning a fun, interesting activity. So, as an educator, we can reach goals using play. Playfulness is the best way to get motivation to participate. If you have children that are not interested, they are messing around, you can't get them to focus, being playful in yourself and using playfulness to learn helps them and encourages them and almost bribes them, really, to participate. If you know that there is a child that loves dinosaurs, but you just cannot get him to grasp simple addition, then use dinosaurs. Let's count dinosaurs, or let's count the eggs that the dinosaurs lay, etc. Using their interest is hugely motivating. And getting creative behind that. So knowing your child's age and what interests them is very helpful in getting their buy-in in the process. Moving away from sitting at a desk. So formal learning, obviously, lots of sitting at a desk, but children right up until teenage years really struggle to just sit. And so getting them to lie on their tummies on the floor to play Uno, or putting big paper on the wall so that they can draw their letters on the wall. Just different environments and different ways of learning is also very motivating. And then just using different mediums. So if you are practicing pencil grip, you do not have to use a pencil and paper. You can use a paintbrush. You can use an earbud. You can use a sponge. You can use, or if you're practicing letter formation, you can use your finger in the dirt. You can use, just getting creative using different mediums, not just pen and paper to learn writing, but using different mediums. And play is always fun and exciting for kids. And so if we can remember to use play, then it will be fun for them and it will be exciting and they will want to learn. So you can decide, what is your goal? What do you want them to learn? Do you want them to learn letter formation? And then you think, how can I make it fun or playful? I still remember learning letter formation, must have been in grade 1 myself. We took box jelly that was dry on a piece of paper, and then we formed the letters with our fingers. And I still remember that to this day. So it's very motivating, very fun, lots of fun and very playful. So just think, how can I get creative about this? How can I take them outside? Can I take them to the carpet? Can I move them away from the desks? Can we put a big A on the floor and we all walk around it? I can make a gross motor rather than more fine motor. And then use the resources you have immediately available to you. So you don't have to buy lots of things. You can use sand instead of jelly to draw in. You can, if you have paintbrushes, you can paint on the walls outside using water. So you take a paintbrush, you dip it in water, and then you do letter formation on the wall. You can make Play-Doh. And I forgot to include the Play-Doh recipe, but I will send it through. Very simple, very easy, very cheap. We can make obstacle courses using your tables and chairs in your classrooms, climb over, climb around. And those are all like your spatial perception or all your beginning parts of maths that you're learning about. Charades for more social things. And if you would like more examples, you can pop me an email. But basically, just decide what it is that I want them to learn. How can I make it fun? What do I have in order to make it fun? And very lastly, just before we finish off, as I said, sitting at a desk is really hard for kids up until the end of primary school. And sometimes they just need a break. And so just think, your brain, as an adult, you don't realize you're doing it. If you are sitting, studying or working and you feel like you're losing concentration, subconsciously, you will get up and go to the toilet or go make yourself a cup of tea, even though you didn't consciously think of that. And that is giving your brain a break. So it will help them to refocus. And it also introduces an element of fun. Something as simple as right hand up, left hand up, hands together, sit down, or hands on your head, hands to the sky, just doesn't have to take lots of time. But then you can do ones where you move away from the desk, where you can play the freeze dance or musical statues or the floor is lava, Simon Says, breathing exercises or animal yoga poses. And I'm not going to get into it, but actually there are so many benefits to games like this, not only as a brain break, but also benefits of gross motor, fine motor, social, all of those benefits that we spoke about before. Yeah. So basically, play in a nutshell, make it fun, educate and excite, and yeah, just have fun with the kids, try get them motivated, and just try to think out of the box, be creative, move around, be playful. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop me an email and I'm very happy to share ideas. And I hope this has been helpful, and I hope the rest of the webinar is also helpful. Thank you for your time.
Amazing. Sure. I actually can't wait to start playing with my kids. I didn't think it was possible. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it was a very useful session with Carrie, and she did leave her email address. So you are most welcome to give her an email or send me a mail and I'll send it through to her as well. We're very old friends, and she has such a passion for getting kids involved and playing with them, and encouraging them to play as well, which I think is such a critical skill. All right, Linda, how are you? Are you ready to jump in here?
I am.
Yay! Okay, awesome. I am going to share your presentation and you will just tell me when to slide. Cool. Everyone can see and happy?
Hi, everybody. I'm going to start with a very brief introduction of myself so that you know where I'm coming from and why I am so interested in this subject. All right, so I qualified in 1973, which is an age ago, but most of my teaching was spent in the informal section of education. We lived in Richmond during the very turbulent years of unrest, And I got involved there because there were so many children that were out of formal schooling, couldn't get into school. They had to move out of their townships and the places where they lived because of the violence between Inkatha and the ANC. So I started by setting up a little nursery school where I had pupils that came in and we just did typical preschool kind of stuff. And then the church eventually, one of the churches got involved in education as well. And they took over my nursery school and they had an outreach to one of the mission stations there. And eventually they took over my nursery school and they started a sort of a winter school, I suppose you could call it, where they helped the matric students to get through their matrics. And I became involved with the matrics in their winter school. And even though I was trained as a kindergarten teacher, working with the matrics was really, really enjoyable because the ones that came to the winter school are the children who really wanted to learn. And I found that having to be innovative for the more adult children, and we had no technology or anything, was really challenging. So I learned to develop lots of different ways of presenting very difficult English concepts, because we all know that English is not the easiest language to wrap our heads around. I worked there until in the early 90s, my husband was transferred to Pietermaritzburg. So I gave all that up. And while we were there, some of the matric students that I had been helping with their English decided that they wanted to go back into their rural places where they lived and to keep the young children there occupied and interested and start little preschools. So I did a very rushed sort of teacher training session with some of them. I spent about 6 months just giving them a very informal, rushed way of being able to occupy the children and to be able to use the things that were around them to teach them the basic concepts. When we moved into Pietermaritzburg in the early 90s, I became involved with another preschool. And the lady who ran that preschool decided that she wanted to extend to be able to help the children once they were finished and got to the age of 6. So we started a little primary school, which we registered with the department. So we were a registered school. It was very challenging to register with the department, but helping those students who were displaced was really satisfying, and the parents were so grateful for what we were doing. I only moved back into a government school when we eventually moved up to Gauteng in 2005, 2006. And I worked at a government school for about 4 years, and then I got sick and tired of all the admin and the hassles from the government school. And then I moved into a private nursery school. You could show the next slide now. So I moved into this private nursery school where we had lots of different children, but because it was a private nursery school, we didn't have the facilities that we had at the government school. At the government school, I had a whiteboard and a projector and all kinds of things. And teaching preschool to these little ones, I grew to love them so much. But also we had no technology, nothing. Even the toys that we had were not very. We couldn't afford the expensive things. So I learned then to make do with what we had and to become creative and inventive. So that gave me a good grounding into play and how to use play. When I retired at the end of last year, I didn't want to sit around at home and do nothing. And I was convinced by a friend of mine to join Twinkle. Put your years of experience to use. You've got so much experience. Don't waste it. So I joined Twinkle. And towards the end of last year, after I joined Twinkle, I joined in August last year. And after I joined, I was approached by our manager, Wendy, to consider making the resources for the new robotics curriculum, which was going to be introduced in 2005. I'm not afraid of a challenge. And I thought about it and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I know nothing about the subject. And after I'd said yes, and I started looking at the curriculum, panic set in. I looked at this and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I can understand now how the teachers who are faced with teaching robotics next year feel. I know the panic that they must be feeling. How am I going to present this to my class? What am I going to do? How am I going to make it interesting? I don't understand it. All those questions that they must be thinking about. But I can assure you that we have approached it and made it easy for you. I started with the first draft curriculum that the department put out. And I spent hours and hours researching. The first draft curriculum was very, very different from the final curriculum that they have presented now. The final curriculum, I must say, if you haven't looked at it, I have never seen such a well-presented curriculum as the final curriculum that they've put out for robotics. It's in full color, it explains everything so easily, and it really is a masterpiece as far as education department curriculums go. The draft curriculum broke the subject of robotics into 5 different sections. And that made it a lot easier for me when I was doing the research to understand the different areas that were pertinent for robotics. The new curriculum only breaks the subject into 3 different learning areas. So you can understand that when I was looking at the 5 different learning areas, it made it very simple. Each learning area in robotics has very clear competencies set out in the new curriculum. Right. So when I joined Twinkle, of course, these are some of our resources that we made. They are cover lots of different areas. If we were in a classroom situation now, I would have you all jumping around and playing and experiencing what it would be like to be playing your way through learning robotics. But unfortunately, being where we are, you're going to have to just imagine what it would be like. So the first area in the new curriculum is coding. You can change again, thank you. The coding is based on a block-based system. So if you want to experiment, and it's very easy to play with it yourself, there's a program called Scratch, which you can play online, and you can see exactly what a block-based coding system looks like. But it's very easy to translate that coding regimen into play. So the first premise of coding is that everything follows a pattern. So we spend a lot of time learning patterns, not on paper at first, but playing with concrete objects. So we can start with Lego, building blocks, making patterns out of all different things. A pattern doesn't have to be linear. It can go in any direction, up, down, around. Patterns are all different shapes and colors. You can make patterns with just about anything. So you can make patterns with their shoes, alternating a simple pattern. All the children with tackies and slops, tacky slops, or tacky slops, or slops, tackies. There are lots of different ways to arrange them in different combination. You could use boats and cars, animals with 2 legs and 4 legs, birds and dinosaurs or whatever. You can use different flowers, a purple flower and a pink flower, or flowers with multiple petals and flowers with few petals. There are lots of different ways to make patterns in a classroom. You can do clapping patterns, clap, clap, wait, or clap, 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 different clapping patterns, different sound patterns. Even with your mouth, you can make different patterns, oohs and ahs and oohs and ahs, all that fun stuff. Dance patterns. There are lots of do the Macarena. That is a fantastic dance pattern because it repeats so often. There's lots of movement patterns you can make. Just we have a set of movement cards that you can print off. Then you can show them cards. Hop, jump, sit, hop, jump, sit. All different ways of understanding patterns. When you are teaching your phonics, you can include making phonics to link up with your pattern making. Different sounds. Ooh, ah, these are abba, abba, abba. You can put your phonics vowels. All the vowel sounds. When I was teaching, I used to call them the monkey sounds. We used to go a e u a a, a e u u a, and make the monkey sounds, which is another sound pattern. Sequencing is very important. Sequencing, being able to arrange pictures in a logical order, daily routines. It doesn't have to just be on a printed worksheet. You can do role plays, brushing teeth, working out which comes first, washing your hands, the sequencing for washing hands. It's all very important before you can actually start learning coding. And they, even in their play, if they're playing mommies or daddies or teacher, when they're playing mommies and daddies, they put their child to bed in a specific order. Or if they're playing teacher, they're going to be doing things in a specific order. Very, very important. Not only do we have action cards, but we also have cards with directional arrows on them, which are very important in coding. Directional arrows are one of the basic understandings that they have to have, how to use a directional arrow. Are we going to walk up? Are we going to walk across? Which way are we going? Left or right? Up or down? We have lots of worksheets with block-based grids on them where they have to insert the directional arrows to determine which way a robot has to move to go across, get across the grids. An algorithm is a set of instructions that is represented by directional arrows a lot of the time, and they need to understand directional arrows. Now, you don't have to teach this on paper or on a coding app or anything. Mark out a 4x4 grid outside. If you have those nice big paving blocks, just demark around the edge of a 4x4, four paving blocks across, 4 paving blocks down, and you have a grid. Then they could use the directional arrows, put out a set of directional arrows, one that goes up, one that goes down, 2 that go across, and let them figure out which way to move using the directional arrows on your grid. You can do it in the classroom if you have tiles. If you don't have tiles or tiles, you can get some pavement chalk and draw out a grid on the driveway, on the playground, on the netball court, anywhere, and have them move according to the arrows. You can put out mark a beginning and an end on the grid, and then say to them, right, you've got to start over here and you've got to finish over there, and you put out the arrows. but oh no, the arrows don't take you to where you've got to finish. So then they can figure out what is wrong. Where do we have to change it? How do we move the arrows? How do we change the arrows? Do we need to add something? How do we get to our destination, moving across the grid? It's lots of fun. And they don't only have to walk it, they can hop it, they can skip it, they can jump it. You can incorporate the gross movements into it, and it becomes a lot of fun. When you get to the highest grades, you can mark out a bigger grid and use more complicated arrow patterns, more complicated patterns, combining arrows and movement. So you lay out a code that says 2 up arrows and then maybe a hop arrow, and they have to hop on the block they land in, and then another 2 arrows and maybe a turning arrow, a turning code. So you can mix it up, help them find the bugs. Decomposition, breaking things up into smaller pieces, is very important for coding. So you've got to think about how you reach a finished product. So if you have a robot made out of shapes, breaking it down into what shapes you used, how do we break this down? Breaking things into smaller pieces so they can understand that things, objects, actions, and everything are made up of smaller blocks of information. Right, we have a bumper pack of coding resources that is going to be available to everybody attending the webinar for the month of October. Our bumper pack will be free. It includes coding resources for the grades from grade R up to grade 3 at the moment, because those were the first ones we worked on. There are different resources in there, decomposition resources, moving on a grid resources, all paper-based, easy to download, and they give you lots of scope. They're not necessarily all based on the final CAPS curriculum at the moment, but they are very useful for supplementation. They're very useful for helping to support the learners who are struggling a little bit, find it difficult to understand certain concepts. So please take advantage of that offer and download it and see what we are producing. Okay, we can move on to the next one. Right, the next area. Oh, this is the code. Sorry, in the next one, I missed one. Sorry. Yeah, the next area that is in the curriculum, the final curriculum, is robotics. Now they have taken in the previous curriculum, the draft ones, robotics covered a much wider area than it covers at the moment. They've really simplified it and made it much easier for us to present to students. So it begins with, what is a robot? We have to define a robot, a machine that can accomplish a task by itself by following a program. It focuses on what robots are and what they can do, how they are made, and what makes them work. So there's a lot of time spent just breaking those basic concepts of robots down. But the robotics section also incorporates designing and building all kinds of artifacts, designing and building robots out of cardboard, constructing a robot suit from boxes, creating all kinds of artifacts from taking a pattern that you created and then threading beads to match that pattern, make a bracelet, building a car out of recycled materials, making a puppet with that can move its arms and legs, building a model of a laptop so that you can practice your typing skills on it. Right. then when we get into the higher grades, they start building simple circuits. Now, when a circuit is required, you do not necessarily have to use what they refer to as a breadboard or wires. There are other ways of building a circuit. You can use dough, but believe it or not, Play-Doh to build a circuit instead of the wiring. On our site, we have recipes for conductive dough, which is a salt-based dough, or an insulating dough. So if you want to make a LED light shine, you need a battery, a pack, which is a little plastic box that your batteries fit into, and it has 2 wires that come out of it. You stick the wires in the dough, you stick the LED light in the dough, and the LED light will come up. If you're going to build a car that needs to use a DC motor, you could use the insulating Play-Doh around the joints. You can put a lump of conducting Play-Doh on the car, stick the DC motor wires into the Play-Doh, and use it as a conductive resource, instead of having to have wires and wiring and all kinds of things that might be a little bit expensive for the schools to be able to purchase. It's a lot of fun to build a robot, and it uses their imaginations a lot. There's a lot of role play that you can do involving robots and the way robots move and the way the tasks that they do. Can we go to the next slide? The last section that they have in the new curriculum is called digital skills. And that involves a lot of online safety, discussing how to make a password, what it means to be online and offline, how do you keep safe online, protecting your personal information, all those safety issues that we need to. Someone's not seeing the slides. I don't know why. Maybe we can look into that. A lot of ways to keep yourself safe online. A lot of cyberbullying information, and a lot of limiting screen time. We put big emphasis on limiting their screen time, encouraging them to go out and play, to do other things. Those are part of the digital skills. Also included in the digital skills is understanding how computers work, the different components of computers, the different parts, what a network is, how networks work, IT skills and ICT, finding the difference between IT, which is just information technology, as compared to ICT skills, which is information and communication, and what different resources we use for those, without actually having to have the digital resource in your classroom. Also included in digital skills is input, processing, and output. So what you do is input, and what you put, then the process that happens, and the output. So typing in a message to your friend is the input, and then the computer or the cell phone is doing the processing, and what comes out the other side is the output. There are lots of practical examples to use for this. The most obvious one is cooking and baking, getting your ingredients and then processing them, and then what comes out is something delicious to eat. Everything that we do in life is a what they call RPO, input, processing, and output activity. If you think about brushing your teeth, what is the input? Putting the toothpaste on a toothbrush, and the processing is actually the brushing, and the output is your lovely, clean, sparkly smile at the end. So there are many examples that you can use in your classroom without having to resort to a digital device. We have PowerPoint presentations available on our site, which explains some of the difficult concepts to understand. If you don't have any technology in your classroom, if you don't have a computer or anything like that, you can always watch the PowerPoint presentation yourself and then use the information that you gain from our PowerPoint presentations, which are very simple, which will then give you a way of explaining the things in your classroom without actually having to use the technology in your classroom. We have lots. I think I counted the other day, nearly 800 paper resources for coding and robotics on our site. They cover everything and they're easy to get your hands on. Right. Now here for the shameless plug. We're going to be making a lot more. We're in the process of creating new resources every week for the curriculum. Our weekly planning follows the curriculum exactly, week by week by week. So all you need to do is to download the planning. It will give you everything that you need week by week to follow the curriculum exactly. And our resources match our planning resource exactly. So it's not difficult for teachers to be able to get their hands on planning, get their hands on the resources that they need, and it makes your life as a teacher a lot easier. We will have new resources just about every day. So just keep checking the site. Don't think that what is there now is our final offer. It's not. If there is something that we have missed, a resource that you think you need to be able to do your teaching a little bit easier, we have a place online where you can request a resource that you want. And I'm not only talking about robotics now. If in any subject that you teach, if there's something that you need, please request it and we will get to it as quickly as possible and make sure that you have. As a member of Twinkle, teaching robotics and coding will be easy. Lesson prep will be simple and stress-free, and you won't go broke because the annual Twinkle subscription is very, very affordable. So please take a look, go online, take a look at what we offer. And if there's anything else that you need or we can help you with, don't hesitate to contact someone at Twinkle. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. That was very, very cool. I think what we've all learned is that Play-Doh is a winner. We did all about Play-Doh. Thanks. Yeah, I was just looking at some of the stuff that you've got up there, and there's so many wonderful maths concepts in there. Like that last game, did you see the secret codes? It's all basic mental maths that kids have to be able to do. So that's both adding the coding and secret messages, as well as doing the maths in the background. You can see how nicely, even with the patterns, how well coding and patterns interlink as well, which is really cool. So for the last session or the last part of this webinar, I'm going to share with you my screen. Here we go. Sorry, I see there's a chat here. One sec. Linda, there's some messages here for you. Yeah, guys, I will share Twinkle links with you, and I will share that bumper pack with you so that you can have a taste of everything that's amazing. And then I will share all the presentations with you as well so that you can have a look and see if you have any questions, etc. All right, so I'm going to switch cameras here to we have a visualizer in the office, and I must say to you that I love it. It's really been incredible in terms of what you can do with it. And so I was just playing around with it, and it's actually part of inspiration behind, apart from the long conversation with Carrie about how important play is, and how children are losing the ability to play with their kids, and children are losing the ability to play, and it's affecting their social skills, their gross motor and fine motor skills. And we were saying it's because of all the screen time. So that's sort of where the whole thing came about. So my new favorite toy is actually the mini bags. I'm going to show you that in a second. Whoops. Hello, fun stuff. So this is the visualizer now that's on. Let's see if I can just zoom out a little bit. No zooming out. Am I zoomed out as possible? All right. So this is the mini mag set. This is our 30 piece, but it goes up to 73 piece kits. And you'll see on the back, it tells you sort of what's in the kit. So I've just done a lot of research and looked at how you can play with the mini mags in your classroom. Okay. So pardon the crazy wires on my desk here. And so what we're going to need is our mini mags, which is this bunch of squares here, and some mini post-it notes. I found these at P&A. They were $30. So I'm sure there's a cheaper solution. I was just in a hurry. And then, of course, I've also got a marker. So it's just not a permanent marker. It's just a board marker. And I found one with a how cool is that? So it's got an eraser on the top, which really makes me very, very happy. Right. So let's talk through some ideas here. So the first one I'm going to look at is phonics. Now, remember, bear in mind that I'm a math teacher, so I love the maths part of this. But my daughter is currently in the process of learning phonics. Okay. And so when I was doing research, I came across this concept, and it's really such a lovely idea. So what I'm doing is I'm just making some letters here, and I'll make a cat because that's a favorite of hers at the moment. And that's just a CVC word, okay? In other words, a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant. Yes, I learned that on Twinkle. And so what you can do is separate it out and then ask her to build the word. And then you'll see it just puts together very satisfyingly, and she's made the word cat. And then, of course, you can do it with a whole bunch of letters. So I can say, what else? Hat. So here I could change it to hat, and I can switch it to, let's see, hat, like that. Okay. Some other nice ideas is that they can build their own words. So they can write down letters and then fiddle around with the set to make different letters or different words. Then, of course, you can find the letters. So, okay, guys, which one? You can put these all around the classroom, stick them to various tables, etc. And you can say, where's the letter A? And they have to find A. Or, I mean, you can do these with post-it notes as well, very much so. Or you can match the word with the picture. So that is very much a Twinkle flashcard things. They've got lovely flashcards that you can print out with the words and the letters. You can just stick them onto your magnetic tiles or just use them as straight up like that as well. Okay, so the next idea is to match colors. So, for example, I was watching in Sunday school yesterday, and we put together the groups of purple ones, and we asked the mom asked the kid, okay, what color is this? Purple. Okay, what color is this? It's yellow. What color is the? It's orange, or pink or red. It's green. So you can see that they can learn. So this is more foundation preschool age group, so 3 or 4, 2, 3, 4, where they're learning about colors. Okay. And then you can create shape puzzles. So what you do is you take a piece of paper and you put together a bunch of squares like so. I don't have my paper here. And you would trace around it. And then you would do another shape. And then the children would have to build the magnetic tile into that shape, which is quite nice as well. And then what you can also do is match small letters with big letters. So here we would have, oh wait, I've got a baby A. Let me just use it again. There's a baby A. And then we'll have a big C and a big A. Okay. And so they would have to then although, I mean, baby C and little c, and baby A and little a, big A. So matching your capital letters together. I think they learned this in grade 1, right? See, I'm a math person. But yeah, so you can see this is a really nice way for them. So you can just spread all the tiles out, or they can play with flashcards, etc., and then match the two letters together. You can find letters that are in words. So for example, you could write butterfly or whatever, and then they can find, okay, there's no A in butterfly, but there is a T. So if there was a T on my thing, then I could say, okay, there's a T that is in butterfly, and they could match as well. Okay, then what's also really nice, and this is very fancy, is to do one set. Obviously, this will take a little bit of prep work, but what you could do is have, okay, so I've got 4 dots here, and I've got 4 here, and 3 dots, and 3. And so then, again, this is all about number recognition. Obviously, you would do this with a lot more numbers, but you can say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 dots must go with the number 4. I can match these two together like so. And I've got 3 dots, OCD a little bit there, 1, 2, 3 dots. So this matches with my number 3. See, so then it's recognizing the actual number as well as the number of counts that they need to know as well. And this is very important as a basis for mathematics, because if they're not able to recognize number patterns and understanding intrinsically what that number means, when they get to mental maths and they start adding stuff. So for example, here we have 4 and 3, right? So when we add these two together, if I don't have that, if I have this, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So then I'll have 7 dots. I've lost my post-it notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 dots. Oopsie daisy, sorry. And so then we could write the number 7 down as well. There we go. So you can see now that it really makes adding a very concrete version, especially if you don't have the counters or whatever, or you want to start translating from a concrete concept into an abstract, which is with the numbers. So now they can see, okay, 4 and 3 make 7. And then you can, of course, add a little plus sign, or if you wanted to subtract, okay, so I have 4 and I take away 3. How many do I have left? I've only got 1. And then I would need to write down a 1 here. So it depending on what you're trying to teach as well, it really makes it super. Okay, let me show. So some of the other fun things, which I'm not sure I'll be able to demonstrate very well, and because these are all holy, and also because of the light, is to do color combinations. So you can see I've got a yellow one. Let me see if I can find a light there. And then I've got a blue one. And if I shine, oopsie daisy, my light not lights. Oh dear. Okay, you'll have to trust me on this one. But if I shine it through, oh man, you really can't see. Hang on. I'm going to try it through the window here. Oh, don't look how dirty the window is. Can you see that it sort of makes green? Okay, you'll have to believe me and trust me and do it as well. There we go. So you can make color combinations as well. So you can combine yellow and blue to make green, or red and yellow to make orange. Again, it's a matter of actually the light shining through. So it's actually better if you were looking up at it. But it's really nice because the kids have an instant way of checking that yellow and red actually do make orange as well. We spoke about sums. And then, of course, we can talk about measurement. Okay, so you could, as Linda was saying earlier, mark out a grid with a piece of tape. But at the same time, you could just have a long strip of tape. And what you could do is just put your magnetic tiles down next to them, especially in the younger phase with foundation phase. You're not measuring in units of centimeters or millimeters or meters. That comes in grade 4 and 5. So you're measuring in units of something. So whether it's a pencil or a foot or a hand, and none of those are standard measurements. So here we can use the magnetic tiles. How many magnetic tiles form a line? And then you would mark the tape. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 magnetic tiles, and they can see that's a standard size. Or I'm running out of space here, 5. Or the length of my laptop, or the length of your book is 5 magnetic tiles, but the width is 2 magnetic tiles. So all of that sort of stuff as well. Okay. Then you could also measure the height against the doorpost. So you could have magnetic tiles standing up against the door as well, which is really awesome because it really gives them a concept of, okay, height is not just a flat linear concept, but it's also vertical. It's 3D as well. And then you can ask them to collect data. So then we're talking about, if I look at my set, how many yellows do I have? You can draw a tally table with yellow, or you can stick them into the tally table so that it gives them a visual representation of the data. And then if you draw a bar graph, if I have 2 yellow ones, I have 1 red one, I have 1 orange one, I have 3 pink. Oh, I've run out of pink ones. Oh, here's more red. I've got red ones here. And there you go. So you see, I've got yellow, orange. Let's just make it 1 so that you can see a different shape of bar graph. You see the distribution of your bar graph is here as well. So it's really wonderful in all sorts of ways for concepts of maths. And then, as Linda was saying about patterns, here we could make patterns of 2. So I've got 2 yellow ones, 2 orange ones, 2 red ones, 2 orange ones, 2 pink ones. Then I could have, what's the next pattern? 2 purple ones. You can see the shapes here have cutouts. So you could do 2 yellow ones with circles and then 2 red ones with these are octagons, 8-sided shapes. So the reason that we have holes is because they have windows in them that you can spin around. And then 2 circles and then 2 octagons. So here I should actually have 2 circles if I'm continuing both the shape inside, the pattern inside, and of course the color stacking as well. Now this again leads me into teaching fractions. And so what you could do is, say, for example, we have 6, okay? So I have 2 out of the 6 tiles are yellow, 2 out of the 6 tiles are red, 2 out of the 6 tiles are orange. Or this side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 with circles inside. So 4 out of the 6 are with circles and 2 have octagons. Or if I wanted to, I could say, okay, if I split it, now I have a third. So they're equivalent fractions. Okay, 1 said there's 2 here. Can you see the stacking as well? So it's a really nice way to teach fractions with your learners as well. Yeah, we can create. Now we've got a quarter, but actually there's 8 tiles. So if I split it again, I actually have 8, which is the same as quarter or even a half. Depending on how we split the tiles up as well. And so it's a really visual way to explain fractions, which in all the days that I've been teaching extra maths, fractions is where it falls down for kids. And they really hate it. And I'm sure you all know, I mean, my story is always about cupcakes because they like sweet stuff. So it always helps to talk about cupcakes. But if you have something like this, where we're talking about equivalent fractions, and we can say, okay, there's 4, but can you see that there's actually 8 pieces here? So 1/4 is the same as having 2 out of 8. And you can do it with 16s, so on, depending on the number of times that you actually have as well. We can talk about patterns in 3 dimension. Okay, so if I've got like so, and this again leads into nets, which is really fantastic. We'll talk about nets in a second. But I don't want to skip my notes. I've got a long set of notes here, which I will share with you as well, so that you can sort of use these ideas in your classroom depending on the level of students. So if you can look here, it's 3D. Go, there's 3D, and if I can put that up there, it's 3D as well. Okay, so now what I've actually done is built a rectangular. But I want to go back to this and talk about counting ins. And we always, if we do this, look here, I've got 2 purples, 2 yellows make 4, and 2 more make 6, and then 8. And then if I add it onto the file, I could count in 3. So 3, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, now my pattern is really not looking pretty, but can you see here on the side? You see I've got 3, 6, 9, 12. But if I'm talking about multiples, I've got 1 set of 3, 2 sets of 3, 3 sets of 3, 4 sets of 3. So now we're talking about doing multiplication. So 3, 6, 9, 12 is the same as saying 3 times 4 as well. So there's really so many lovely ways that you can really play with this for mathematics as well. All right. Again, we can just, as they get older, remind them. So, okay, remember you have 3 piles. And again, this works really well with division. If I'm sharing a group, so I've got 12 magnetic tiles, and I want to split them, okay? And there are 4 children. I'm going to share 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you. Do you see? So that's 4 children. And I've got 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you. That's 8. And I've still got another 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they all got 3. Sorry, oops, daisy. I keep bumping my arrow here. But can you see now? So we've split it into 4 groups of 3. So we have shared 12 tiles into 4 groups each of 3. And we can do it, obviously, the reverse. We could have 3 groups of 4, obviously, and then depending on the number of tiles you've got, you can share that with your learners as well. I saw a really cool one, moving on a little bit here into where the parents built a maze. So they had a flat stack, and they had a little ball that flows through, and they just built it. So now, obviously, let's just build a little bit of support here, and then they would roll the maze, or or have something go, a car drive through or whatever. So you can build a map. The other nice thing here that follows on from this is a grid. So, for example, here's my grid. I'm just going to use the letters I did have. So if I think about it, so I would say to the kids, okay, my grid is 1, 2, 3 across, and A, B, C. Where is the letter T? So if I go A, B, 1, 2, the letter T is at B2 on my grid. So it's just a natural grid that sort of falls into place. And you can put all sorts of things, depending on how creative you are with your Post-it notes on here. Or you could actually just have a little something inside. You could color it in, depending on if you're using the board or not. Or if this is actually on their desks as well. And then you could always say to them, okay, you have 3 letters on your desk. Where does the letter go? And then give them a grid coordinates. Okay, so it should go in A3, so it must go over here. Or the letter A should go in A C1, so A, B, C, and this is 1. So, yeah, and so on and so forth. So really about helping them manipulate grids. And you can see how little prep work I've actually, in terms of setting it up for myself, how little prep work I've actually done, apart from my Post-it notes and having my magnetic tiles here to play with. So it's a really nice way to teach maths without too much complicatedness. Okay, now we can also talk about, and it's actually perfectly set up on the grid, is to talk about the area and perimeter of the shape. Okay, and so in foundation phase in grade 4 and 5, when we look at the area of something, talking too much, you can see that we always count squares. Okay, so if we're looking at the area of this shape, we can count squares. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. So the area of the shape is my squares. But if I'm talking about the perimeter, I'm counting the outside of my squares. I'm counting the lines of the edges of my magnetic tiles that I can feel as I trace along my shape. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that right? Yes, I should have started on the corner. It would have been a more logical thing to do. So you can see that it's a really nice way for teaching perimeter and area and giving them a grasp, practicality. And then, okay, let's rearrange the shape. I've still got 8 here. So here you can see I've got 8 squares. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's the area of my shape. Let me start at the top here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's actually quite interesting that here we've got 8 squares, but the perimeter is still actually 12. And so then that talks to multiplication, multiples, factors, etc., as the kids get older as well. Okay. Another nice thing to do here, I hope everyone is still following with me and you're having fun. Well, I mean, you don't have tiles with you, so I'm having more fun than you. Okay, so moving on from measuring area and perimeter, so we can also look at number sentences. And so I was actually busy with the worksheet last night on number sentences. But if, for example, I'm going to use my magical post-it notes again. Let's say we have 3, and then I'm just going to say times, and then we have an unknown. So we'll just make a little block here with a question mark in it. I was really hoping we'd get to the orange ones, but I don't think we're going to do enough examples. And then let's say plus 5, and then we'll make an equals block because that's kind of actually important here. And then let's put it over here. I know it's not in the right line, but it's more that I've run out of space when I want to show you. Equals, and the last block is 11. Okay, so now when we talk about solving number sentences, with inspection, right, what we would say is what plus 5 gives me 11. Okay, and that means that whatever this is must be equal to 6. Okay, because 5 plus 6 gives me 11, right? So, oh, sorry about this. Let me move this table a little bit. Okay, are you all following me so far? So in other words, that means that actually this little thing times the 3 times the block gives me 6. Okay, so now I've done a step past my number sentence here. Now I can say 3 times what would give me 6. And again, we know that 3 times 2 gives me 6. Okay, so we can replace this and just write a 2. 3 times 2 gives me 6. So in other words, my 2 is equal to my block. And now I have solved my number sentence. And I mean, yes, I've done this very fast. With your learners, you're obviously going to take a lot more time. I'm assuming that you understand the concept of number sentences. But you can see here how nice it is to visually solve the problem. And then going all the way back, if I go back to 3 times 2 plus 5 is equal to, oh, that's 11, not equal to, here's my equal sign, is equal to 11. So I can see how my number sentence worked and how we got to 2 from the original one over here. Make sense? Everyone's still following me and happy? All right, awesome, fantastic. I don't see any questions, so I'm going with, yes, you can use Lego as well. Yes, and there will be a link afterwards. I will upload this to both the Edu-matic channel and to the Maths Sharp channel, where we have a lot of stuff available on there as well. Okay, so that's number sentences. Then also a really great one is following instructions. And so telling the kids, okay, I would like you to build a pattern where the purple is first, the green is second, and the yellow is last. Okay, and there, okay, so yellow, we want yellow. So we said the yellow is first, the green is second, and the purple is last. So now they have followed that instruction. Okay, so that's another nice way. And again, your instructions are going to come with teaching. Drew on myself. your following instructions is intrinsic to all of the other stuff that we have done, because if I tell you to build a block with 6, and it must have 3 columns and 2 rows, then they need to be able to build the shape, and that is again following instructions. So that's also a big part of going through this as well. Now, another fun thing that I found, and this again talks to the whole social skills of play, is actually teaching emotions. Okay, so how do you feel today? Here's today I feel grumpy. Okay, so I'm going to stick this up on the side of my desk, or I'm going to use Post-it note, whatever. And now my teacher can see, okay, this kid is not feeling like a, I need to just be aware of that. Or this child is super happy and will answer all of my questions. So why is the kid happy? Did he have chocolate at lunchtime? You know, did mommy give him a hug? All of those sorts of things play into your emotional social learning as well. Okay. Or in fact, we could use colors to represent. So I'm feeling angry today, so I'm a red one. Or I'm feeling happy today, so I'm orange. Or I'm feeling sad, so I'm a blue magnetic tile. And they can just stick these, if you have a board with their names on, they can stick it and you have the name in the middle. All sorts of stuff like that. So it's really a great way to encourage them to visualize how they're feeling and express their emotions. A lot of children that we work with often don't understand how to say how they're feeling. And so if we're teaching them, okay, to recognize, okay, I'm actually feeling sad today, then they and expressing that emotion, then they're already 3 steps of the way further than they were a week ago, even, you know. So that's really cool. Then for the older kids, we can talk about building compound words. So, for example, room is a really great one. So compound words with room. As you can see, I taught high school, so my handwriting is atrocious. There's bed, room. There's bath, room. There's I don't know. I ran out of examples. Did I write them down? Wash, room. No, but coffee machine. So you can have them match. Okay, here's 6 words, and they together make compound words, and they can match the compound words together. And then when they're done with those, you can give them new ones. So it's a really very nice exercise, especially for learners who struggle with a particular topic as well. And then, of course, the last one, which will work really well with this, is using it to do order. So, for example, here, I'm going to just use the words that I've got, but you can do this in numerical order. You can do it in alphabetical. You can do whatever makes you happy. I mean, we talk about place values, so I could have done for grade 5-digit numbers and then ask them to place it in. So here we can say, okay, bath comes first. So I'll skip that here. Then bed comes next, then room, and then wash. And so you can do all of those and then have them, you know, it's really nice because the tiles stick quite nicely and it's quite easy to rearrange. All right. Lovely. So that is sort of everything that I've covered today. Thank you, guys. So where can you get magnetic tiles? Because that is a very important question. So currently they are available on Take-A-Lot. through Walton's. In fact, Walton's is going to run an amazing back-to-school special on them. And then, of course, we've got them at Toys R Us. If you're really stuck and you'd like to order them in bulk, you're welcome to get hold of me, and I will organize special pricing for you as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you found this presentation helpful.